All right, we are in theory live.
All right, excellent. Good morning, Netrunners. We're here at the America's Megacity Online Championship. We have myself, Cephalopod Wizard, on today, as well as Thrantar running the stream.
Hello.
And good, I just heard ourselves on the thing. And as we come into today's event, we have somewhere around 40 players and a lot of games happening. How about we get into one? I saw as on table 1, and so it's interesting to see what people have brewed there. Do you want to try to spectate that game?
Yeah, if you want to hop into table 1 and check, then I can pull it up, potentially.
Yeah. That's right. It is Netrunner. We got to make sure to keep this. We're throwing this production together at the last minute. We are good to stream on table 1. And here we see Lost My Thumbs playing as McCaffrey versus Malice Motor on Built to Last. Ooh, that volume's have to turn down the volume.
Speedy game sound down?
No, that's on my own computer. Not the stream's not affected.
Okay. Although actually, I do want to turn there. I do not actually want to techie game sound here. All right, so I'm seeing us live on Twitch. I'm not actually seeing us live on YouTube. Do you see us live on YouTube?
I do see us live on YouTube. Yes. All right, we see Penny Shaver coming in, not using as his usual console, and Docklands Pass just coming in to check out HQ while it's open. Not seeing anything to steal out of there. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to go away for 30 seconds. I'm baking bread.
All right, well, bacon and bread are both good, so I can hardly blame you. We are seeing, looks like a pretty defensive opener here. Out of Wayland, make some money, put down some ice all the centrals, ship the turn back. Lost my thumbs clicking the penny shaver, taking that little extra credit, a little bit more efficiency there than just the basic click. And possibly looking for some run economy. Coming in, running archives, clean getaway, penny shaver counter. Setting up for the future. There we go.
I'm back.
All right, I've realized that this works better if I remember to change the stream image that's being put into the game from the splash screen. So our description of the game should now be less necessary.
Yeah, I will admit, I had a stream where I forgot that all the time too. Luckily, the chat was there to have my back. It looks like we have found a wide variety of new things to get a discount with on As. Open market coming in, only 1 credit.
You know,
Seeing
open market's
Vlad
great.
City Grid. What is that?
Yeah, open market's great. Let's see if something I've actually experimented in pre-rotation in Built Last. You can build some very rushy decks with it. Getting that free credit like every turn with with Built Last. I mean, the 2 free credits really, right? However, that was a deck that I always found had a hard time pre-rotation of scoring the 7th point. It was very good at coming to 6, and it was kind of not great at counting to 7.
Perhaps in today's slightly more restricted runner economy, we can actually run them out of money. That is a 4 in the bottom right.
Hmm.
And Built to Last just can keep going because you get those 2 credits back, and we've seen 2 credits to turn for quite a bit. That's good income.
Right. And especially like for credits, right, is there are lines where you can, put down an off-road office, advance your off-road office, then move the credits from glide credit over, and then advance your off-road office, score at same turn. Like you can fast advance 5-2s with Lad Grid, which is very nice.
Now we're starting to advance that Aket, which once you start to have to use a real fractor, it's going to have 5 strength, and that is going to be prohibitively expensive and continue to be further income for you.
Well, the coup repair
Well, okay.
bypass does look very nice into Akat, as much as bypassing a 3 cost dice is a little, not necessarily where you want to be, but
It's not, but fortunately for the corporation, there's no cheap barriers anywhere to get those bypass counters.
mhm.
Those open markets, that's all 3 of them. We've hit the jackpot. And it's been keeping the runner pretty financially solvent. When they come down for just 1 on as, that's really good for the finances. Also of note, a choice that I've made myself in some decks, Penny Shaver is just one of those cards where maybe you don't need Hermes, as ridiculous as that could sound, because having a sure gamble every so often turns out to be pretty good. And now we're here with new mystery card in the remote. A second ice has come up since a while ago. And Built to Last just continuing to keep going. We haven't needed to res the centrals because the remote is just going so hard, even though the corp's only on 0 points.
Mhm.
And in here we do see the corp is on government subsidy. Not everyone's on that. Like Fly Swatter, no viruses, and fortunately, Boomerang Group
Just
here
boomerangs.
does get you through here.
Yeah, I mean, Built Last is very good at making money to support the government subsidy if it wants.
Yeah, and that makes me think that we might have to be on the lookout for measured response because transport monopoly, because government subsidy is the kind of thing you play when you say, well, I need 10 credits because I'm going to have to play 2 of those. I can probably actually resolve a government subsidy. But transport monopoly, old forgotten card from Ashes, which gives you essentially 2 Crisium grid counters, and you can just declare that a run, such as this one that's about to run in HQ, does not get to be successful. And it's been a surprisingly powerful agenda when you get to score it. All right, just some economy operations in HQ. Don't think this transfer of wealth is going to do too much. But the runner's floating the tag. I don't know how badly you want to get rid of the class act. You probably don't, but
I mean, you can get rid of the open market with 1 credit left. That seems less than exciting. I think the runner's just happy to take a look in HQ with the little bit of Docklands pass value, right?
mm-hmm. All right, the runner is going to respect the tags for now, though. You never know. It's influence free to play end of the line in this deck.
We're seeing a Mascarovka Res, which is with the Kurapir with the Game Dragon, resing this barrier. It's not free to break exactly. Kurapir is still spending 3 on these breaks of Mascarovka, but it is certainly
It is going to add up, and
going to add up to
Smaskrov
some free
could.
bypasses.
Yeah, I'm a lot happier to pay 3 to get a bypass, to get a third of a bypass, than I am to pay whatever the price on Aket still is. Actually,
Right,
you can't
and
fully break.
you cannot fully break Ocket.
Yeah, so
This
maybe
gives
the
it.
HQ Maskarovka is trouble. And Knickknack. The trash penny shaver. Okay, my roommate has this conspiracy theory. Oh no. We did not manage to get all the agendas into the remote.
So I mean, I think that to some extent this is a read here. Like, if Mascarovka is a long-term weakness because of the Kurapira, the reason to res it is because HQ needs to be closed right now.
But of course, it's not even closed. It's just mildly inconvenient. You have to push on the revolving door a
Yes.
bit. But selling the penny shaver, and I hope I don't have to concede my roommate's right on this, might mean that you intend to have a different console installed at some point. Like, what if you have a late game pivot to a different console? And my roommate thinks that you can justify that if you're playing Knickknack. And I think that that sounds absurd. So, fortunately, we didn't get far enough to see if my roommate might have been correct.
Um. I'm trying to think if there's like any consoles that are really, really strong tech pieces.
I mean, arguably, Penny Shaver is a really strong anti-asset tech piece. Maybe Penny Shaver's the tech piece.
Well, that was our first game of round one done, but I think we have plenty of time left to get in a second. Is there anything that is catching your eye?
Yes. I do see. Okay, I see an op game, which I'm always interested to see, but maybe that's a game we need to see from the beginning. What about we check out maybe table 10, which is Newm versus Sable?
Sure, if you want to go in and check.
Just coming in and checking. All right, not table 10. Let's see. Would we like to see? All right. Would we like to see table 7, Nebula versus Magdalene?
Sure, I haven't seen much of those this tournament.
All right. Game just ended. I guess the Nebula games are not going to be lasting very long to expect to get to catch them midway through. Well, let's see if maybe table 2,
Table 2 is
which is
already reported.
Bangoon. Hmm?
I'm looking at the standings. Table 2 is already reported.
Ah, yes, I need to refresh the page. All right, I know a game that's probably still on. I see table 4 has Thule versus Lat.
Seems very plausible, yes.
Meow. Yeah, 3-2 points. Yep, we are okay to stream on table 4.
All right, what do we have here?
Right, we see Lat with a pretty good piece of tech for Thule. Hannah wheels to check out all the remote servers. Then we see Thule with the working prototype defended with a little bit of ice, bringing in some of that liberation cycle derezzing shenanigans. At least I assume so.
I am also seeing that Lat is in an incredible amount of danger right now. I am looking at that scored false lead and going, that is something that I might just die to, despite the fact that it does actually no damage.
False lead is extremely dangerous. And there's just so many things that Thule could be on. Looking into the discard pile, I see Mr. Hendrick and Worm Reception, so we are doing some derezzing to keep the working prototype fueling, and if the runner's unlucky enough, possibly uninstalling one of their resources. But using wheels to just clicklessly see if the corp will let them touch Spin Doctor.
Yeah, running up
And
the
that's
wheels, right. If it's unsuccessful, so yeah, you cannot productively fizzle Hannah and force the runner to take a tag because removing the server does not render the run unsuccessful.
speaking of a great amount of danger, there's an aggressive trend setting in the Thule's score area. So every
Yes.
time you come deal with one of these assets, you need to devote another click to that. Which is in a way just offsetting the click Hannah gave you, but that's a pretty strong ability, and the worst thing about Thule is all the clicks you have to spend to pay off the corporation.
Mm-hmm.
We do see a Pishasao discarded. Looks like we're not going to see a good target for that with how few ice is in this deck. And we do see the public access plaza, which is probably a hint that there might be some tag based punishment going on here. So you really have to worry about dying to end of the line.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, the Fuchsia Shao does make me wonder if there's some sort of conduit. Um, if we look at the conduit plus either Kirby's or what's the two cost shaper console installs a thing when it does sort of stolen
Pantograph.
pentagraph. Yes.
Yeah, that is kind of an infinite combo, as long as you have enough money to keep it going.
Well, the pentagraph also gives you one credit, so you don't really need much.
Yeah, it's
Like Fuchsia
just the
Shao
cost of whatever.
is one. Now this
Yeah,
is
it's
not
just the
really as
cost of whatever ice you have to go through.
right, right.
All right, we do see that there's a worm reception on the table, which gets to derez working prototype, and then you get to re-res it, giving you multiple counters. So we might
Hmm.
just see res a bunch of stuff,
And then pop the working prototype.
yeah, and possibly put Hannah back on top of the deck, and that'd put you in the hole a little bit as far as spending clicks.
Hmm. So far, only one course been dealt. We're not quite sure how offhand, possibly off one of the Mr. Hendrick, possibly off one of these agendas being scored on Jupstead Grid. And now that
Possibly.
the... Sorry, go ahead.
Possibly. And of note, of course, Lat has the Stone Chip chart room, which is going to make killing Lat way harder. Although the Lat identity is turned off as long as the corp keeps 5 cards in hand. So you're not going to have 6-card Lat looking, staring you down.
Mm-hmm.
Burner is a fantastic card. I've played a couple of asset spam decks, and Burner always makes you sad because you are always sitting there with like 3 agendas in hand. There's the end of the line.
And the line to the bottom, yep.
Yep, some of these lists only have a single end of the line, so then you end up forcing them to shuffle or tutor it back. Then SkipNet added to the top. We see that there's a Simul chip in the RFG zone that got hit with the SkipNet, but there's not a lot. It doesn't look like this is a twinning list, which is probably why SkipNet is in the Thule list. And then, oh ho, second false lead, narrowly keeping it out of the corpse score area.
And there is a 50-50 on the salvo testing in HQ, yes?
Yes, there is a 50-50 in the salvo testing on HQ. Probably why the runner chose to take a core damage here. And we'll get to go see, I'm guessing that's Hendrick on HQ.
Until he is when, yeah, not an additional cost, right.
Ooh. Oppo research instead of the Hendrick.
Well, instead of the
I'm sorry, Oppo research instead of
salvo
the
testing.
little bit of foreshadowing there. Oh, and I think chose to trash Mr. Hendrick. Is that right?
Yes. Trash Hendrick, giving the click over. But there are not that many places to sort of hide the salvo test. Maybe inside Observer 12.
Now, you might just have to do a spiteful play to like put environmental testing back on in the runner stack, but also just have 5 cards in HQ and let the runner play the slots.
Mm-hmm. If there's a Spin Doctrine Surfer 14 potentially, that's an overdraw and discard.
No, server 14 is the worker prototype. Is the
Okay.
warm reception.
Yes, Surfer 14 is warm reception. You're correct.
Environmental testing goes back to the top of the stack. Heartbreaking, but there is a fermenter with a bunch of counters on it. And there is a spin doctor, so the corporation will have the chance to discard the salvo testing.
Or can elect to just play the odds and go, it's a 1 in 5. You can take your 4 runs.
I don't think I'm playing those odds. Also, not getting the Oppo research. The corp's not rich, but you do have 7 to pay off. Muse, I am betting that that is for copulation. I'm guessing the salvo testing didn't stay in HQ, but If it did, then you could punish the corporation. Owner's a little constrained on money, but there's $8 on that fermenter there if you want it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some sequencing questions. There's the Hana click, which doesn't like the free check is
It's not a check. We just know that this is the worm
right. That's the
reception.
thing is it's not a check, but you can still accumulation here, which saves you a real click using Hana, right? On by using Hana to run this remote to get your accumulation pickup.
You do find aggressive turn setting. Thule tax is coming your way. Oh, and there's more
And an
agendas.
ontological dependence.
So that was looking very scoreable. But yeah, good game. Got the very important Thule technology in Hana wheels, and just
Mm-hmm.
taking that 50-50, not getting the 50-50, but the corp did draw a bunch of cards. So there's always more agendas when you pull that kind of mass card draw.
I will say I keep waiting for NSG to print teleological dependence.
What would teleological
No,
dependence
we
be?
need teleological dependence to go with ontological dependence.
Hmm.
I have no clue what it does, but I so want it to exist.
Well, if you bug the right people, and I'm not the right people, I'm just here writing the rules text. You can make it happen. Maybe I should have uploaded what do you think stream. Good question. Because I think there was one turn there, but then you need to hope to find the end of the line because tags themselves don't do it.
Well, there's still the false lead here scored, which is interesting. And honestly, this is relatively rich for the corp. Like maybe there's a line you force the runner to float two tags using the false lead in combo with the oppo, and then you can trash Hana and the search of chart room or the new kill or something and threaten more kill. I don't know. Like
It is a tough life when the runner is well teched against you. All right, how much time do we have left in the round? Looks like we are on.
yes, thanks Game of Thrones. I will pencil in Running Worlds for 2026. I can't make it over this year, but maybe in 2026.
All right. Looks like we have 15 minutes left, so let's try and find another game. It's not a lot left that's still running. Looks like the op games are going long. They must be doing some asset grinding out there. Zach, need to update a note real quick.
Yeah, it's a good catch on the op games. We are seeing one, two, three, five op players this round, and three of them are still trudging along.
We do see a lot of Sebastio playing against them. See this one. All right, do you want to see if table 19 is still up? Bangoon versus Hoshiko?
Sure, you can hop in and check.
Yeah. Oh, game ended, so not today. Let's see. It's not that one. We got. I do want to catch one of these op games from the beginning, but we might be priced into watch an op.
I mean, watching off is hardly a terrible thing.
Oh no, it's fun to come into. I'm just expecting a really advanced board state at this point. All right, you want to check table 18, op versus Hoshiko?
Sure.
Oh, this game is 2-4. All right, we are good to stream on table 19. Or not
19?
wait, not at 19.
This is 18. Ruben Peters
Yes,
versus Armin
18.
Firecracker, correct? Okay.
Yes, this is table 18. I still had the wrong find replace on. All right, we see a large table for everyone. Armin Firecracker has the full suite of companions except for Paladin, but you know, and you got Banhar, who's not exactly a companion, but just coming into R&D.
Except for Paladin is a really wild statement about which companion to be missing.
I'm shocked that Fencer Fueno stonks have come up enough to be played. Though that was pre-rotation, you would just play Ms. Bones to deal with assets.
There was already some like cool Fencer Fighter things you could do. Like you could use the credits on Bahia Bands runs, for instance.
You could, but is gaining 1 credit return really as exciting as gaining 12 credits? All right. And we see wall to wall continuing to go up. I don't see any of this advice. I don't see much advanceableness to this ice. And you're an op, so it's probably not going to stay that way. But it looks like we have a measured response and Bladderwort's in the discard pile for the corporation. Looking to be annoying and grinding, which probably explains why we're only on 5-4 at this point in the game.
And if there is another Butterworth that comes down and can stick, well, I'll figure God, that's a little tricky.
Yeah, all
But
3 are gone.
I'm just looking. Currently, the rudder is looking very low on resources, empty stack. Well, okay, the rudder's looking very healthy on resources, having 4 of them in play. But in a general sense of how much future stuff is accessible, there is an empty stack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, runners on Keiko, which is just no. I would argue Keiko is today's Rezeki. Being able to have just
It's just
the
money.
real credits in your pool, it's just so good. And like that Penny Shaver game, apparently money is a good enough console ability these days.
These days, I wanted money when people were trying to make news about me.
What was that?
I said I wanted money when people were trying to make news about me.
Hmm.
It's so much less hard hitting if you just buy out the production company.
We got okay. What's this? We have about 6 minutes left in the round. We are closing in, and the runner can certainly get in anywhere. Shylander has a strength number that's basically unbreakable, but it turns out Leech gets you there, and then Buzzsaw can just get you through for 2 credits.
Mhm.
So,
The runner
Corporation,
is currently missing a killer.
that is true. Let's do a killer check in the discard pile. I don't have Cyber Feeder installed. I just switched. I can't sort these. Oh no.
There are no killers in the discard.
All right. I'm going to assume that Armin has put one in the deck, so there's probably one in the hand.
Oh, sorry. There's an Odorai actually in the discard,
Hmm.
which is the cares about virtual resource.
Yeah, subroutines you can break for free if you have
Or installed
a
virtual
set of 3.
resources. It's base 0 strength, and you can pay 3 for +3 strength. Now that said, as much as we've checked, and there are currently no killers for the runner, I have also checked, and there are currently no resed sentries for the corporation. So this is perhaps,
Especially not on the remote. All right, paying through the wall to wall, you do have Fencer Fueno credits lined up. Or I'm sorry, paying through the Skunk Works. Then you get into the remote and you see wall to wall and a Skunk Works. Probably get rid of both of those.
yep.
And then mystery new card that looks like a Spin Doctor, but you got to keep him honest. It is a Cyber Sand Harvester, new op technology thanks to the change in the rules around no change in game state. In that you're not restricted based on no change in game state anymore.
Yes, it's a much more flexible card now.
Yep, you can just trash it to gain 0 credits, which has the secret technology of you just get a 1-coster from the deck. And 5 cards left for the corporation. Gonna have a real nail biting finish for this. And given how many assets are in the discard pile, we might be looking at all the ice in the deck. So perhaps Ruben finally found a sentry to go on the remote to inconvenience the runner.
Although sentries are not traditionally known for their strong ETRs.
I mean, they did just print a big lizard. However, this Gen Suite doesn't look like it supports playing Biowack. And with that in mind,
And there's also Surveyor. It
rotated.
can. Oh right, rotate. Yeah. I guess my general point is more that end the runs are not entirely unknown on sentries, but it's certainly not a signature of the ice type.
All right, not resing that. And Jack out. Interesting. I think they're just evaluating that if the corp's not resing that on 7, this is some kind of bait.
Mm-hmm. And Armin
Therefore,
Firecracker is slowly running out of real credits.
yeah, if you stick on the Hoshiko side after your stack's empty, your ID text is now lose 1 credit per turn, which is admittedly a little bit rough. I would want to switch IDs at this point in the game.
I mean, I think you're looking for an angle to even potentially not run and just click for credits 3 times, get 2 bonus credits as you flip back, and
I think the runners did get an access on HQ though,
Mhm.
or on R&D though. All right, looks like that card in the remote was just bait. And then we have droids coming in to presumably announce that time is closing out in the round.
I do expect we will be coming up on time here.
30 seconds left in the round. So Game of Droids is just perching here like a vulture, just waiting to say time in the round.
And that's 1 minute left being called. And you hear we see the click for 3 credits. Sorry, click for 4 credits, right? Runners have 4 clicks. I don't know why I was saying 3.
Oh, possibly expert manipulation of the time in round. I guess it doesn't matter a huge lot. Whoa, getting an AZEF protocol. And now it is Ruben who wins on time if the runner doesn't find something.
Well, there are a couple interesting angles. It is, in fact, a mere 4 credits to get through R&D, which Armin could afford to pay 3 times. Sorry, whose turn was time called on? Time's called
Right
here
now,
on
it doesn't matter a
Armin's.
whole lot unless either the runner wins right now or drone deployment HQ.
Yeah,
A
so
good
finding the drone
read.
deployment in HQ is an option. One line I was thinking about is this is a very asset heavy obelisk, we think. It's possible to run R&D 3 times, and if you can trash all 3 cards and ship the turn, the corporal will
It's
die to mandatory draw.
it's possible, and I have managed to do that with a big ESSA turn rated Sabotage 11 towards the end of an NEH game.
Mhm.
But I think you need to maximize those Azimuth credits. So if you took that line, you probably need to click for 3 credits, run R&D, and then the following turn maybe you follow up on that line because crash costs are not low in an asset spam deck.
There's credits. There's the 2 credits on Outspot. There were 2 credits on the Fence of Fuego. There's some leech counters which convert it out to credits. No, those didn't convert out to credits there. The Rising Tide had enough strength. Um, and there's still a world where you crash one asset and then you find the agenda that's below it, and then you steal the agenda and either win or didn't have to spend to trash it and keep looking. I don't know
My
what
my
the
cat
odds are,
is
but
very
it's definitely a line I was looking at. Instead of going, okay, I need to find the 1 or 2 in 5 in hand.
it might be much more than that at this point. There's 6 at the end we had 14 point or no, not 14. At the end we had we had 14 points between both of their score areas. So there were still 6 points somewhere in HQ and R&D.
Right, and that's the other thing is you could potentially find those points in R&D too.
Mm-hmm. My cat has very politely informed me that I didn't feed him yet, so I will be right back.
Mhm. And is historically somewhat notorious for pulling everything that isn't points out of R&D. Anyway, as we finish up round
We
one,
got round one results all in. All right, we have to be careful not to crash ASOPs, but this isn't as big as a day as the last tournament. Looks like, okay, until the round's concluded, I can't quite see players on top, but I see several Seb wins. We'll have to try to catch a Seb game at some point in the future. I see an Issuaq win. I see an Alco win. And I see an Arisana win by Kabloosh. I would like to see what Arisana is up to these days. Round two is paired. Well, speaking of which, table one is Alco versus Arisana. It could be a very cursed matchup. But would you like to take a look at table one?
sure, I mean, just tell me where to go, and I will happily head there.
All right. Let me see. All right. Not this round. All right, so not this round on table one, but let's go take a look at. Uh-oh. My bread is ready to leave the oven. Let's check on table five, which is Op versus Hoshiko. Wait, not literal misclick. These JNet tables keep jumping around. All right, we are good to stream on table five, and I need to go take bread out of the oven.
Excellent. Bread is good, honestly. All right, and we are live on table five, where we are waiting for this game to start. We are seeing Super Heavy Logistics versus Hoshiko Shiro, Untold Protagonist. Both longtime meta staples, basically continuously since their release. Yes. It looks like we'll wait about 3 minutes or so for time to start. Ooh.
I am back. Did I miss anything?
Not really.
All right, and for the streaming experience, if you really want to live off life, I am told that you need to start listening to Live and Learn Eurobeat Remix on repeat. So that is your assignment. You got a few minutes till the game starts. Go make it happen. We are closing in on the game start in 50 seconds. And asset ops was a thing pre-rotation, but there's a couple of things post-rotation that also make it sound attractive, notably lessened runner economy and Cyber Sand Harvester. Now you can go get one costers on demand whenever you want to. This can get you, say, a bladderwort to just start being annoying, and you can start trying to get an oppressive headlock on the runner as you manage your credits and you try to keep doing one net damage turn after turn. And I think there was another thing at 1 that was relevant to fetch, but I can't. Oh, FUT. Being able to fetch FUT on 1 can be a really nasty surprise. And it also has a pretty high trash cost. You have this suite of important cards that you have to trash with FUT and Sphedigore Excavator. And that makes life difficult for the runner. Starting off with Petty Cash. And then as the runner, you might as well check R&D, get yourself 2 credits eventually. We don't have a lot to speculate on, but looks like Mirror Cube saw an interesting card on the top of R&D and playing the Steel Skin. Setup is important. This can get you your value pieces, such as a Paladin and a Fermenter. But whatever the Corp is doing in Server 1, they've gotten away with it.
Yeah, that's sort of the thing I want to talk about, right? Because before the release of Elevation, create server 1 and ice it, very common. You run up your Rashida, that's a giant threat. And there's just not quite that same threat here. So we sort of see a trend back towards these more defensive, just ice some centrals.
Yeah, we didn't even see this card in Server 1 used.
Exactly. This run a server 1, protect it even using one of your few pieces of ice. We're seeing a
Oh,
measured
hello.
response. A very important card to keep in mind going forward in the game.
And this list does look a little more operations based. The petty cash is just slow hedge fund in some way, so choosing to play that over the more economic assets it is an interesting choice. And then Eminent Domain, that's a scary score.
And it is the giant lizard.
Yeah, and there's very few ways, especially ones that I expect in Anarch, where you're going to be happy with how you're getting through a Bioac. Like Banhar is probably one of the best ones, and I don't see a Banhar on the table right now.
If you've got 3 leech counters and 3 virtual resources, Odore doesn't like Odore starts feeling very good, but that's a lot of setup cost.
Oh no. Bioac on HQ that was waiting to be rezzed because there was no agenda to forfeit to it, and now it looks like this Bioac is gonna stop this clean getaway.
I had to put a factor in the bid for Rising Tide. I don't see the boomerang being used. Okay.
Yeah, use the boomerang because Paladin seems like a really important resource to protect. But it does get a boomerang out of the game because you didn't get to complete the run.
Mm-hmm.
That is the absolute danger that scoring one emanate domain does for you. It's not just the Bioac it reses. It's the Bioac that the corpse can res that was on HQ the whole time.
It's not just the Bioac it reses, it's the Bioac. It also reses.
Yeah, eminent domain giving you 24 credits of value. That's a 1-pointer. I think that's good enough to play with that 1-pointer. And of course, we must acknowledge that the 14 on Bioac is slightly inflated. No one would ever play this Bioac for 14 without the agenda forfeit clause on it.
Mm-hmm.
Angelique is out. Great thing to see in addition to, well, it's a great thing to just nudge the runner's hand size low enough to measured response to them. Now the corporation's taking the time to resolve Anthill, and I think at this point you've been bought enough time with the Bioac that you can just steal and make money for a while. Maybe even just fully empty a regolith mining license.
And I think it's also very possible to rush behind this Bioac if you have any tempo positive agendas.
Also, we're finally about to see Ops Text Fire, Anthill Excavation, and on top of giving you 5 credits and 2 cards, is also going to get you some 2-coster out of the deck. Right. Raindrops cut stone, run R&D. It's a very, very sad dirty laundry for Net 2 at this rate, but you got to get those credits somehow.
There's still also the touch on R&D. You can see an agenda, you can see something you want to trash.
We saw not a lot of targets for what you can install the Gachapon. In fact, I think that was the only one. And we're moving a Rising Tide from the game.
Yeah, there's a Rising Tide. Like, the Rising Tide's also a valid target. The Gachapon hits programs.
It does, but you've already got one Rising Tide.
But you can trash any number of programs as you install a program.
You can. All right, that is a Plutus in the server too. That is an interesting asset to be running just out on the table. And that does make the petty cash perhaps look a little more sensible. All right, and perhaps this was to be expected in a deck where we see Bioac and Plutus, but at last, Greenmail is here to profit from the Tucana that just got installed. And now we've got a Kessleroid for free on R&D. Plus, whatever this is, that's been boomeranged.
You know what's advanceable? Okay, is Colossus still in rotation?
Yes, it is. That was Ash's reprint. There's also the possibility of just second tree line, and probably not Shylendra. That doesn't get too wacky with the third advancement.
Logjam just gets very big.
Logjam does get very big, and there are 3 card types in archives.
Which is relevant for this armed asset protection.
Yep, that is a
That's about
hedge fund with the 3
with
card
three. Yep,
types.
that's the point where it gets good. Hedge fund from cheap is a little bit better hedge fund. This server one is looking very, well, not entirely unassailable, but this is looking rough.
It's looking tough. You need a good solution, and this is the kind of matchup where a twinning becomes really important because you can't just be going through BOX for singles.
Mm-hmm. And there's also very possibly real threat that server one can protect like an SDS for 1 turn, and then you score the SDS, and suddenly you need to go find more icebreakers to get through.
Oh my, it is a Shylendra, which is just triple advance to get extra advancements. This was a tree line spent for this purpose, but not the most threatening triple advanced thing I could imagine resolving. Like the subroutines don't get upgraded on this ice. Runner does need to watch out though. Measured responses are lurking as much as this deck seems to have. Ooh, speaking of drone deployment, only have to get rid of a leech for that. That's a pretty good deal. And you don't turn on the threat, and that's ultimately the threat going on here because the
Mm-hmm.
runner can scrape along and get through these servers, but not while having 8 credits to spare. You do
That's a
see a
critical
buzzsaw.
score.
Yeah, buzzsaw gets hit. Probably we can expect the runners got a second buzzsaw somewhere in the
Somewhere in
stack.
the deck. Somewhere the hand is, I think, less reliable.
And Tucana doing work when you have this remote server that lets you convert a strong remote server into, I'm not going to say strong centrals, but better centrals. Now we see the companions ticking up to 3 credits each. You do need to go satisfy their hunger, otherwise they're going to start eating stuff on the table.
Use them, or, well, not necessarily lose them, but it certainly can get exciting.
And notably, Paladin Puemu has the secret text on it that you cannot pay for connections, so these wheels did not help install anything.
Mhm.
All
Now,
right,
what
you
the
didn't.
Paladin can do for you is trash your Rising Tide, which is definitely a card that I am assuming there is a playset of in this list. The
Deployment.
Gachapon, pick
Lost
the
connection to server.
install with the preventer discount. Sorry, with the Gachapon discount, you still cannot save the paladin.
Had a little disconnect there. My ISP is sabotaging me.
I see, I see. So is this like a sabotage one, or is this like Chatushka?
I think this is at least a sabotage too.
Okay, okay.
You do see a new card coming up, but I'm going to guess that this agenda suite is on a lot of 2-pointers. So there's probably a lot of agendas around. And I don't know how this list has room for any money in it. Cyber Sand to go get a 1 cost? What is the 1 cost that we want?
Malapert
Oh, it's a Malapert. Makes sense. Just keep scoring, although the corp is down to 2 credits and might have to stop with this just keep scoring game plan. And there's the very important twinning out there. Fully emptying the Paladin, which we did have to feed wheels to the Paladin earlier.
Yes,
Pay 2 credits to make sure Paladin doesn't eat something else.
There's a very unfortunate interaction where the Gachapon discount prevented credits from being spent from the Paladin because there wasn't anything expensive enough.
Okay, it looks like we are seeing humanoid resources out of Op, which gives you this very fun, trash can on your own turn, on top of all the stuff humanoid resources does. And that the awkward thing in Op is that one of the modes is play 1 operation, which we'll see if the court manages to do that. Looks like no, did not manage to play an operation. So that's probably why the petty caches are in the deck, just to have something to play with human resources.
The flashback portion from the archives does not work, I believe. Only the front face.
It does not. It does not work because you play a card from hand with the humanoid resources.
Yeah.
But in terms of it was looking a little odd that this is in the deck when you could just play hedge fund if that's what you wanted. So I'm guessing that's hedge funds 4, 5, and 6. All right, we do see Fencer Fueno coming online. That's a good card to have. It brings the Odore virtual resources online. Although I guess we were online already.
Well, I will note that we have not yet seen hedge funds 1, 2, and 3 out of OB.
Is the corp just unlucky, or is there? Okay, I guess we also saw the Plutus there. There is notable interactions with Plutus in that you launder that clickless mode into +1 click when you play it with Plutus.
There is an extract.
Classic Ob card. Get a Hollow Man in the remote. That's looking like we might be slow cooking a drone deployment.
Not quite sure slow cooking is the right word. We haven't actually done any cooking whatsoever yet.
Oh, it's just a virus. Purge off the fermenter. Very rude. I bet the runner wanted those credits.
I would suspect so too, which is, I suspect, the reason for the play.
And the other reason that Cybersand Harvester is pretty strong is that you can have this guaranteed chain of virus on my turn, Cybersand on the runner's turn, and then if the 1-pointer is something that you want to do something with on your turn, like maybe a
humanoid resources,
you bring back the humanoid resources. And And all I can think is, if only Yakov was on the table to watch all this happen.
Mm-hmm. Instead, the Cybersand Harvester is on the table to watch this Silentra be rezzed.
Yeah, the rare circumstance where we actually might get some ice into the corpse credit, we might get some Cybersand credits into the credit pool. Allowing one net damage to fire.
I thought the lose 2 credits was firing.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I was looking at the breaks. Interesting. I would think that you could get away with the place one advancement counter because we can see all the cards in remotes. The corpse not getting an advancement there. And I don't know if I'm worried about the ice on the top of the server.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't know what's going on the outside of server 1, so I can see the argument. Well, I just really don't have to worry about it. Like, I don't have to consider whether this is doing something.
And that's cute. You get to use the Bueno credits to pay for the to pay for the copulation sweep. Not trashing measured response though. The runner is playing with fire, ending the turn on. Well, okay.
I mean, one measured response.
Once one more
trash.
point gets scored, playing with fire, ending on this little cards and credits.
I mean, one measured response was trashed. There are no credits to trash the other one.
Warp is taking quite a while to score out. All right, time to zoom out. We got 2 new remotes. Holoman still not seeing any agendas to advance. Somehow, despite running 1 pointers, the corporation doesn't have the agendas that it wants to score. And it may actually take us a while to get to threat 4, so the twinning is probably going to be extremely valuable. There's nothing really keeping you out of R&D if you can just build up twinning counters.
And with the 4 companion special, it should be pretty easy to spend a credit from something installed each turn.
Oh yeah. Now it's time to keep the corp honest. Maybe they think they can bluff some assets, but in server 9, what do we find? Just a spin doctor.
Which I suspect is not going to stick around, and will instead RFG to shuffle. Ah, nope, is being let trash. Okay. Wall to wall also being trashed.
Paying some precious real credits for that one.
Petty cash setting up. A bit of econ now, a little bit of econ later.
This not making a lot of use of this unassailable remote server though. You have the Bioac that looks really demoralizing to get through.
Climactic showdown.
Now this is pod racing. All right, so this has been a generally thought unplayable card where you install this, you stare at the corp, the corp gets their turn, and then at the start of your next turn, you pick a server. Then the corp can pick to trash an ice out off of that server, or you get +2 multi-access on HQ and R&D. Well, one of them, only one of them. So it's a very strange looking legwork or maker's eye that the corp gets a lot of choices about how that shakes out. But if you pointed at R&D, I think the Corp might not want to trash that Shylendra. But of course, the classic counterplay, install an unresed piece of ice to make sure that there's nothing important to go down.
So I will say Climactic Showdown also routinely makes lists of like funniest cards to sell to Aesops or turn off with Dr. Lovegood.
It does do that. I think you're probably looking at HQ, and I think the Corp probably just lets you have the Shylendra. Because I bet Issuaq can hold.
Just sell your Showdown at high noon and don't show up.
Yeah, so installed a Fall Guy piece of ice, and Climactic Showdown ultimately trashed an unres piece of ice.
Yep.
I have
Something
good
like this
news.
is
The bread.
ice removal that doesn't really have any restrictions on recursion or like requirements that you fully break the ice or trash a bunch of your own cards like Prey does, um, or require you to get the strength to 0, or require the ice to be of a certain type like spoon, knifed, and forked. This does just require the corp to decide that they'd rather trash the ice than have this other thing happen, which is uh, certainly a different sort of drawback.
Mm-hmm. All right. Server 2 is an advanceable ice. I'm betting that's a third Shylendra. But ultimately, Shylendra does not end the run. I'm going to guess it just costs the runner 2 credits here.
Yeah, what are we returning? Could be a boomerang if there are only 2 boomerangs in the list. Could be a fermenter. Could be.
It's a boomerang.
Okay, yep.
And we're just doing this for the twinning access while we're here.
Certainly with the twinning accesses, it looks a lot more appealing. I believe
Okay.
we do know that there
Found a
is
drone deployment.
one measured response left, and it is currently in HQ.
Toxtra also up to 4 credits. You probably got to get rid of those. However, after all this time, we are finally at threat 4. Not burning off Trickster Taka credits.
I thought that one was just going to burn Fisher Talking credits on boosting a breaker, like just pressing tide twice.
Yeah, you can. And now Taka does say during a run, so you can't realize after your 4th click that I should have used Taka credits.
Yeah, but with the run on archives happening there, it's
yeah. Little hope to remember. So we see an extract on the HQ Shylender to go get an anthill. And we're gonna chill and collect money and play a value measured response.
I mean, if there's another score like the measured response doesn't do anything game's over.
Oh no, we found another measured response.
Well, we knew there was one in hand. Okay. I'm not entirely sure how measured that response was, honestly.
See, I thought I saw 2 hit the bin. Did one of them get shuffled back with the spin
One
doctor while I
one
wasn't
was
looking?
spun back.
All right, looks like we just found it. But that is the threat you have when Wayland starts rezzing all this huge ice that costs you all of your money. Sometimes they will punish you for then having spent all of your money. See, time in the round, we currently have we have 11 minutes left. Would you like to check out Table 9, Issuaq versus Sable?
Sounds fine by me.
All right, we can come into Table 9. We do have a pretty well underway board state. The runner has a lot of points. It looks like this is an Issuaq list that is going to be on all 3-pointers and get the 7th point off of the ID, and a lot of big ice set up. The runner does have their breaker suite up, a twinning, a ongoing econ in the form of the info bounty and the Chesva.
So it's looking like a pretty good position for the runner at the moment. The Corp does have quite a few pieces of ice installed, but it's not quite all rezzed. The Lacoste
And a
is,
Lacosta hanging out without a piece of ice.
I do have some wonders about how the board ended up in that game state.
I'm gonna go check the bin. Well, okay, there is a Hermes that is not installed. Did we end up trashing a Hermes somehow? I don't think so. And I don't see Reprise in the bin. All right, just install 3 cards and cook slowly. The runner has a lot of chances to set up and wait for a good chance to score. Although Issuaq can accelerate from not having a lot of points to being on game point really fast. And Tattoo Bola, the classic. You run and you hope to cost them money, but you might end up just fueling the economy instead. We are going to proceed through the Tattoo Bola, let the Corp have 4 credits. Right. And we also see 2 twinning counters, so if we sweep HQ, we are going to see the Tattoo Bola again. We're a little over halfway through the Corp's deck, so it's downright probable that there's agendas to be found. Using the cupulation for the access, preserve the twin encounters, and we see Seamless, La Costa, Tatubola. Classic. What do you see in HQ? The Tatubola you just put back in there. The Corp is safe today.
Mm-hmm.
But you got your Sable click, you got your info bounty money. Doesn't sound too bad. And Unity, the whole team is here. Perhaps assuming that now there's definitely got to be something in the remote. Appears just having just the right amount of strength to cost you an extra boost on the revolver. 3 counters is you can't do that too many times, but it's really cheap to go through a sentry once. And full breaking, not going to try to save counters. All right, the corporation thinking hard and ultimately deciding to res an Anoetic Void might possibly be forced into this if that's defending an agenda. And this looks like a really tight spot that the corp is in. Have to spend 2 of your 6 credits and 2 of your 3 cards to get in. Now the run is just going to come back. If it was important enough to void in that situation, that could just be an agenda.
Yep.
But if this is bait, that's the revolver down. And that looks like that was
money.
Not just money. That's the perfect amount of credits that the runner has to choose to either stop the regolith or stop the void from firing again.
I mean, we've already had the breach. Like, oh, you're saying, yeah. Either trash the regolith or the void, and it's the void. Cool. So the runner is going to get a chance to res this regolith and probably just flick it 3 times and have money, and they will be delighted to have some money.
Very fortunate for the corporation there. Hopefully those 2 cards that had to leave HQ weren't too important.
Regolith res, regolith click, 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 and shift the turn back.
Yeah, and you gotta play it cool with how quickly you take the 9 credits, because if you click them right away, then this might be telling your opponent information that you just drew a card you're not worried about. Whereas if you take a minute to think about it, maybe they come check HQ and see that you drew a hedge fund.
Or you just click it instantly 3 times to hide the fact that you just drew agenda that you have no method of protecting. Like the mind games can go in any direction. There's an infinite depth of mind games that you can play.
A simple neutral card, providing us with the finest of Jinteki mind games. But to really sell it, you need to take the first 2 immediately, wait 10 seconds, take the first, then take the third hit. We are coming up on 3 minutes left in the round. We, of course, are not going to tell the players that. We're supposed to not interfere with the game. But Issuaq may want to step on it to the best of their capabilities.
So the revolver counters are being tapped out. There's presumably more revolvers in the list, but they're not in play.
And
The Issuaq.
given the time constraints, this is definitely all the money that you're gonna be able to make use of all game, unless you come resing a Cloud Eater somewhere on HQ. All right, that uniced La Costa being a liability, and the runner gets to see what's in server 1.
Yeah, this is going to be used as almost like a falsified credentials here.
And notably, I think that we have a very, very slight rules violation that nobody cares about, but La Costa is not optional. It should be getting advancements this whole time.
Okay, you're right. This is true. Also, Trick of Light, I believe, has rotated.
It has rotated, yes. All right, it's squid time. None of this ends the run, though.
Red Planet Couriers has rotated.
Red Planet Couriers has rotated. I think Hearts and Minds is one of the last move advancements around effects we're looking at.
Okay, yeah.
Time has been called, but time, of course, allows the current player to finish their turn, which should be enough to get to the send a message that we know about. And the runner can just let this fire because it's just 3 damage. However, might as well throw the gun at the Jinteki science man.
Yep.
All right, that is that for that game.
And I
Issuaq
expect that's
not.
that for this round also.
Yep. So that is the end of round 2. And we definitely aren't gonna have any tables that we can jump into at this point.
All right, so I will briefly throw up our standings.
And it looks like the round has been concluded, so we can see the standings. See Cybershark undefeated on Op and Hoshiko, and then Armin Firecracker similar. We have 12 players that are on 6 points so far, 2 rounds in. I see 5 ops. Looks like they're up to something over there, and then a whole lot of Hoshiko. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Hoshikos in the top 12. Do you think we might finally get a ban on Hoshiko?
I think that this is not enough data yet to tell.
Round 3 is paired. We are moving right along.
come back to you when we know the conversion rates, and then see how well Hoshiko does in the cut. But we are 2 rounds into 7, I think.
I think that's correct. I hope this caffeine lasts all the whole time. Is there anything? All right, we could take a chance to see. We could take a chance to see an Alco game from the start, see how that goes. Would you be interested in seeing Table 2, Alco versus Essa?
Sure.
We are good to stream on Table 2. We have about 5 minutes until the round starts, though, so... my loaf of bread, it's looking real promising. Just took it out of the oven. It's cooling right now. How about you? Have you been doing any baking recently?
Baking in particular, not really. I moved at the start of the month, so I've still been doing a bunch of just unpacking and settling in, and have not quite done any large kitchen projects other than hosting a housewarming party, but that did not have any large amounts of baking.
Mm-hmm.
That had tuna salad, which is notably not traditionally baked.
We could be on this cusp of some incredible science here, though.
Now, once you have tuna salad, having bread and like cheese and doing a tuna melt, great idea. Grilled sandwich with tuna salad, I'm totally on board for this. But
Show bread. I don't.
unfortunately,
Let's
it's very
see.
hard to show the bread because I'm the stream runner, not Cephalopod Wizard.
Unfortunately, I switched computers recently, and I don't have my elaborate setup that would allow me to just put bread on screen. So then I'd have to like send it to Thrantar, and I don't suppose you have an.
You could photograph the bread, and I could get the bread on the splash screen, I guess.
All right, well we got a minute. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, I've gotten that into the commentary text channel for you.
All right, working on it. Uh,
I think I know what my lunch break is, which should be happening after round 4 if I'm reading the tournament channel correctly. Droid is, of course, cheating by looking at the bread in the commentary text channel and not the stream. All right, we are closing in on the start of the round.
All right, 1 second. I think I have your bread here. Not that one. Not that one.
If you don't yet have a OBS scene that's just what on your current monitor, I highly recommend it. All right, and we are off to the start of the game.
So I'd love to be able to do that, except for the fact that I only have one monitor. So like I can't have having one that just figure out the monitor is all sorts of logistical issues. Because frequently I have like I'm constantly juggling things on my screen that OBS should not be grabbing.
There.
Behold,
All right.
the bread of Cephalopod Wizard. I
Yes.
even
Excellent.
have you credited as the artist.
With that said, Alco started turn 1. Install, install, install. We are off to the races. ESA installs buffer drive turn 1. We're ready for the long game, should that happen. And starting running hot. You get to save the card that you get core damaged. And there's a dynamic to this matchup where both players are trying to mill out the corporation. The deck is going to go so fast for Alco. But of course, this is a scary matchup in which to be reducing your hand size, and we saw the runner's hand dip real low for a second there, but luckily you got Steel Skin Scarring to get you. Oh, we're still on board. Switch back to the game.
Yeah, we're on the game.
All right, great. Okay. A very strong start for Alco. Just 2 Bladderworts, both getting to deal damage to the runner and get you Alco counters. And now you just get to resolve Alco and draw 2 cards.
Uh-huh. Although drawing 2 cards hardly slows down the rate at which you tear through R&D.
Yeah, this game's probably going to end on a big archives run.
Well, there are
And
these
now
2
you just got
Bladderworts that Ectoplasm probably has to deal with. You cannot
you
let
may have to.
multiple Bladderworts fire for multiple turns. That is just death.
That is a very spooky problem to deal with, and one that a lot of the ESA decks I remember from before rotation would struggle with because you don't have room for that. You just play the events, you play Ghost Tongue, and that's your economy. Ooh, sending a message. We have these must-trash Bladderworts, and then we're going to start accumulating counters on foot.
A lot of fetch to dismantle here. We're shooting to see draw, run R&D. Okay, that's Regenesis Steel. This is, I think, just death now. This is
Yeah, it took a 2 damage hit from Fut, who is still there, and now you're going to take Bladderwort hits and let's see, how can you do 2 damage from hand with just 1 Fut trigger? I guess you just score Sting with the help of a Moon Pool.
you can score something with Moonpool.
It has to be Sting
Angelique.
though.
Angelique works here.
It does, although you got 2 damage you
Not
need to
sure,
get
yeah.
through.
Well, I made 2 Angeliques, right? Like,
Yeah,
but yeah.
although that's a little bit of a less likely outcome.
You could do Blood in the right. No, this P is gone. We cannot just score Blood in the Water twice for lethal.
Yeah, but an ice on archives is going to buy you a lot of time because chances are you can't just walk through that ice without dying to Bladwort next turn.
Well, here's the thing, right? Is Asa needs to spend at least one click rolling to not just die to the Bladderwort, and then okay, gonna run Bladderwort twice, or no, letting one Bladderwort still fire, Reaper function Bladderwort, and one more damage somewhere.
We are getting ever closer. This is the death spiral you can find yourself in facing Alco, where they are just shredding your hand like this, and you can barely afford the clicks to keep up with
The
refilling
Bladderwort,
your hand.
yeah. Windflow coming in here. Windflow revealing Fuji's, shuffling the back, sting, lethal. Yep.
All right.
Flatline, turn 4.
Yep. Bladderworts were a problem that it's tough because you need to come up with a lot of money right away, and having both Bladderworts active from turn 2 is a really good start for the corp.
It is a lot of pressure that has to be dealt with basically immediately.
Yeah, and in that time you don't really have enough time to go find whatever asset tech you may be packing.
Mm-hmm. And we don't have Miss Bones for plus 10 credits. Okay, just blow up everything on the board.
All right. That said, let's take a look. Is there anything that you see that we want to? Is there anything that interests you on the table? Well, to play Essa at the moment, it's. I think that if Essa had managed to open with an Azamat or something, that was a game that looks like you might be able to really capitalize on the fact that the corp is milling itself.
Nothing
But
that's jumping out to me at the moment,
but then you definitely need to be playing Azamat. I don't think you can get away with not playing Azamat right now. Would you like to check out table 16, which is Diogenes versus Jantuno on Newm versus Sable?
sure.
All right, let's check in. All right, we are good to stream. And we see here the runner has gotten a couple of good accesses, already on 5 points with the Basalt Spire and an Above the Law. And putting down a Hermes just to slow down the corpse potential comeback that they might try.
And just gonna get getaways into archives here. Just captured all the run value, run events and archives, while archives is free and open.
Yeah, Newm is turning out to be capable of producing a lot of money and then just resing log jams everywhere, which is pretty threatening. Even a Chesva don't get you through a log jam very easily.
Not easily, but if you can farm up some Kurapure counters early while the log jams are still small, or while there's a small tree line.
Oh, hello. It's measured response time.
Okay, there's a
It looks like that was
response coming in.
Yeah, it looks like that was just to delete the runner's credits, which sure enough, the runner does have very few credits right now.
are looking pretty deleted. Although there's Mystic Mimi Bahia Bands trade down. There's the Chesva Bahia Bands. It's like mostly free install, getting 1 credit off and then being able to pay 2 from Chesva in. And then just finding the agenda in archives. And that is game 7-0 in favor of John Tuno. It takes another victory.
All right. My ISP trying their hardest to sabotage me. Don't know what's going on, but that looks like that's the end of that game. Unfortunately, we came in just before the end. Would you like to check out table 18, Nebula versus Lat?
Sure.
Oh, looks like that may have concluded. Let me refresh. No? Okay, I don't see table 18 in here. All right, let's try to find another one. How about we want to check out table 19, Synapse versus Hoshiko?
Sure.
Looks like this game is still in the early stages. And it's checking in on the players. We currently have 28 minutes left in the round.
All right, so we're good to stream on table 19.
Still waiting to hear from one of the players. Their mid run. I'll poke again once this run resolves. Okay, we are good to stream. And I can see that we are cooking because I see Janaina JK, the asset that piles up 3 credits a turn until you click it to grab them all.
And
So you
then
get
swap with your hand. Yes, yes.
we see that the runner has taken a next big thing, but also has 0 credits.
Does
As well
have
as
a Benhar, does have a Paladin that's got 2 credits, does have a Twinning to leverage the Paladin credits.
yeah, so there's a lot of potential for both players here. But here we see Synapse, one of the IDs that people aren't sure what to do with. This is the first time each turn the tag is removed. You can install 1 card from HQ, ignoring all costs. So that suggests maybe you're doing some kind of glacier play. But of course, it is difficult to, like, that's one of those things where that's kind of hard to launder into actual credits, getting a discount on installing ice. And of course, Banhar only hits the first ice that you encounter.
Mhm. We are seeing
So
threat is currently 3, so this
yeah, the
unpot
threat is
has 2 subs.
yeah. So if you want to go through with just regular credits, not spending any kind of tools, that'll cost you 6 to go through NPOT currently, and that doesn't sound like a great deal. I'd play Boomerang to not pay 6. And also of exciting note, Janarina gives you repeated ways to trigger Tranquility Home Grid.
Mhm.
And then Messner Chestfoe. That's a good ice to only take 2 net damage on instead
Yeah,
of
this
the
being
regular consequences.
yeah, rather than going to 0 credits and dig the run.
I mean, if it's your last 3 credits, that's just
Yeah,
emotional
going to
damage.
0 is painful.
Yeah, that's just the emotional damage that we want to avoid when we're playing Netrunner. And it is, of course, another Janarina on a full playset, it seems.
Petrico, the home grid is a 4 credit trash cost, so that will be sticking around, ready for the first one to come back down. Gain 2 credits. Okay, no, this was actually just a regular fighting license.
And now the corp looks to be set. It's going to be hard to come back into this server. Like you'll need a boomerang or something, and you'll need to have enough credits for the regolith, which is 3 is a lot more than the 1 on Janina.
I
So
mean,
it looks
Buzzsaw
like
boosts for 3, it's a code gate. So at worst, this is like 4 right now, just using the Buzzsaw, or eventually 5 for Buzzsaw, which is still much cheaper than 9.
it's much
As
cheaper than 9.
as much as Buzzsaw is not the paragon of efficiency when it comes to breaking 4 strength ice, and there's even a leech. Like get a leech counter, and this looks get 2 leech counters. Server 1 looks incredibly soft to Buzzsaw.
Yeah, this is where the corpse looks to be playing a pretty chunky ice suite. So I bet that once the regolith is emptied, the corp will feel comfortable resing the other servers.
Yeah, and even stuff like enough cards that don't necessarily feel safe poking archives or R&D right now on 2 credits. That's a lot of there's the Banhar Doom
Oh,
scroll.
but we do have the secret technology in Elevation. There was a bunch of ice printed that have these fluff extra subroutines, seemingly just to hurt Banhar, and that's what we're seeing right now.
I
Because
don't
that third sub would not do anything if not converted to do 1 net damage.
okay, but I do think the third sub and how it works really helps sell this piece of ice to me as Doom Scroll.
And that is another next big thing. It doesn't matter if you die. If as long as you get 7 points while doing it, then you win. But yes, I do think that the theming on Doom Scroll is very good. And also, even without Banhar, it's a very compelling, unlike real life, it's a very compelling reason to stop after you've Doom Scrolled once. Because the second trip through Doom Scroll costs you 3 net damage from the subroutines regardless.
Yeah, I was thinking about what collides there were here. Um, Measured response obviously is one, but I'm not convinced of a measured response here.
We haven't seen a ton of influence. I could imagine playing more than one Tranquility home grid.
I tend to assume that if there's one Tranquility home grid, there's a playset of Tranquility home grids.
Yeah, it's a pretty good return for your influence. But as is to be expected, this tag deck is playing some way of applying tags. The runner's got 4 tags now.
Yep. Runner tries clearing them. That's some free install value. If the runner tries clearing them, Synapse level, I think, will be happy to spend an action each turn, clicking for 2 credits at an install for each of the next couple of turns. That seems very fine too.
Yeah, and seeing as I don't think the runner's getting untagged, I would be willing to trash Banhar right now as the corp. That is one of the outs for instead of having to play the game, I can just try to cheese one access somewhere and find a single agenda. That's an avenue you got to shut off.
Yeah, especially if there's a one-off finality or something to act as a closer.
And Arizona not too wealthy right now. You have the regolith right there, but you can't quite afford to go on to trash like all of the runner's resources. Well, Planogram's is a pretty sick card to have right now. Rashida was never truly gone. Rashida's better than ever as long as the runner's tagged.
I don't even think that's true, because playing the planogram takes up your first click of the turn, and then you only have 3 clicks to use all your new cards. It was that you got all of those resources, all of those cards, all of those credits,
With a full
and
3 clicks to
then
use
had full
them.
3 clicks to use them.
That is true. We did see the corporation have to just discard 3 cards to hand size, so I guess Planogram was just gain 3 credits today.
And Mosh, like it was a moshing.
Yeah. Moshing was ban worthy, it turns out.
I think there's a lot else going on there, and also was possibly a little bit better for runners than for corps.
I mean, the corporations did get petty cash, and what is that if not strike fund for corpse?
True.
What if that's 3 petty caches in archives right now?
So we should bring back the Fisk investment seminar.
I remember playing Fisk Investment Seminar. What a time. They just gave criminals diesel. Right, Banhar is back, but you are still tagged, so maybe you're just trading one of your clicks and credits for one of the corpse clicks and 2 credits. I think that still looks like something that has to go as a top priority. We aren't seeing the tags go anywhere, but you can, if the runner starts clearing tags, you can install something with in the Tranquility server and collect your Tranquility money, which is pretty cool.
I'm
I
a
wonder
little
if
bit surprised we're
go
not
ahead.
seeing a tag removed or two as a click for two that also installs a thing. If you're installing a thing anyways, get 2 credits out of removing a tag in the process.
Maybe you want to make sure the runner doesn't start thinking that they can clear all the tags. Like maybe you want them to just give up hope on that front. I say as the runner runs through Doom Scroll and takes another tag. Because the catch on removing all these tags is eventually they're going to realize is, wait, being untagged is an achievable goal. I can make it.
And then you just offer them again.
And then you just oppo them again. If you have more than 3 credits.
All right, action being fired.
All right, my ISP has just DDoS.
So this does reset the strength of the rising tide back down to 1 strength. We're not seeing a lot of barriers though out of the corporation, so that's potentially not a concern.
Yep, seems okay. I don't think we expect bigger than a ping out of NBN. Ooh, bigger picture. You can just steal the entire credit pool right now.
And it looks like that is the choice. The bigger picture is that I am very rich and you are very poor.
It's one of those cards. I think someone said about it in some card review video. I'm amazed NSG had it in them to print such a mean card. And it is very mean. Although it does say like, hey, if you have a big enough credit pool to be worth stealing, you could be clearing credits right now, which no one wants to do, but I guess it is trying to force that upon you that you will clear credits and you will like it.
Or won't like it because that's a lot of credits and clicks you're spending. But
You'll like it more than you'll like me taking all 13 of your credits.
mhm.
Yep. And Arizona pointing out we have 12 minutes, which is probably significantly more concerning to Arizona, who is not looking good on the timed
Having
win front right
points
now.
run, yeah.
And also, Cobalt pointing out, all you need is 3 credits to get into this remote. And for all of this funny business with the NBN player experience, you do have to address getting agendas into your score area at some point.
I
You
mean,
can't win through emotional damage.
look, all you need to do is get the agendas into someone's score area, and then IP enforcement.
All right, using up paladin credits on this here boomerang. You, as observed from the leech counters, you don't even really need the boomerang, but I guess you probably do want the paladin to not eat your other cards. They all look
Mhm.
quite important.
Yeah, this is just a sort of method of trading off some paladin credits, I think.
But now we do have Enpot at full power. The threat level is 4 or greater. There are 3 subroutines.
And that's a leech counter and 2 credits with the power of a buzzsaw.
That is right. Now, sometimes Buzzsaw just looks pretty good. You got to play those 5 or 6 strength code gates. Have you heard about our Lord and Savior, Piranhas?
Promise is pretty solid.
And it's just a Janaina.
And a Hollow Man. We might see the Hollow Man being trash. Hollow Man's also very scary. This
Hollow
particular
Man,
hybrid has gotten a lot of value over the course of the game, though.
yeah, Hollow Man is pretty scary, and Arizon does have enough credits to start powering out stuff with the Hollow Man.
Mm-hmm. That is part of why it looks so scary. Is there's enough credits to use it.
All right, hear me out. Here's how we close up this remote. We put a 3rd code gate on it, and this one can have 4 strength too. And then we see paladins or the companions are going away. Friends are forbidden.
I mean,
Only subscribing to our video game is allowed.
that just cuts down on the trippy card here so much. Especially with the like this will also take the kick down effectively. We've actually been seeing a lot of Odori actually as the killer of choice, I think, in multiple deck lists now today. But that's not particularly the case right now. Right now, it appears to be this Echelon, also a
Mm-hmm.
very, very solid killer.
Yep, and Echelon, very fortunately, matches Doom Scroll strength, so you just get to break it for 1 credit per subroutine. But yeah, if I were an Odori gamer right now, that would be a devastating blow to lose the companions.
Mm-hmm. Yes, with all 3 companions, you can break Doom Scroll for 3, same as this Echelon. Although you're paying 3 for strength boosting and 0 for subs, opposed to 0 for strength boosting and 3 for subs. A little bit of the exact inverse there, but I do like this
Just
breaking in
one
on HQ. I don't necessarily like
ooh,
seeing this
public
public trail
trail.
in HQ, but like it's one leech cutter to get in, and then you get one leech cutter back, and it's one to break with Buzz. Also, just a very cheap access. If I can find any sort of additional value, if I can find another leech, if I can find um, a Docklands Pass or something, then I'm absolutely on board here.
All right. Looks like the Corp has a very convincing lockout on the table that I mean, you're not locked out, but you probably do need to take a minute to just recover your economy and maybe clear the tags.
Mhm.
Or yeah, Azamat. I don't know how much that does for you right now, but maybe just flexing that Keiko has 2 MU on her. You can actually just play Azamat and a full breaker suite. Oh, it's the 3-1 you never want to score. It's the blank 3-1. That is brutal. But that does have a very cute way to just add and remove tags to trigger Synapse.
Mm-hmm.
So the Corp has a bit of a journey ahead if we're going to reach it by scoring Oracle Think Tanks. And we are on runner starting the journey to being untagged. If the Corp gets to send a message in the remote, yeah, that looks pretty safe right now. And you could just remove that second tag to deny the corporation the because Synapse is only the first time a tag is removed. So if you remove them both right now, you are denying a future trigger.
Mm-hmm.
But then that puts you down to 0 credits, and no one wants to be at 0 credits. The runner is probably trying to figure out, can I get in there? And I'm going to bet that the answer might be no. But also you have a turn to get in there unless the Corp is playing 2 seamless launches. And we do see the cashing in of the next big thing counter. I'm going to guess that this is a Hollow Man that's been found and put in the remote. But also triggering Tranquility again, that's just a good amount of money. In the round we have, where are we at? Looks like we have 3 minutes left in the round. You know, Overclock would be a sick card to have right now. I'm starting to just put it in my runner decks because it turns out that having 4 more credits than the Corp thought you did gets you into a lot of places. All right, it's the big question. What is this ice? What is this upgrade? Will it stop you? Bran looks like it will stop you. That's a huge piece of ice. That is an ice from HQ coming in. All right, quick internet check. Are you still there?
I am still here.
Excellent. All right, we do see the very interesting advance to 4 advancements on the send a message. The Corp did not have an extra advancement counter hiding in there. So this gives Hoshiko 1 more turn to try to crack the remote, although that's harder than ever now that there's Bran plus whatever the Corp thought was worth putting on the table behind it.
Well, I mean, like, even after the runner scores here, the runner has to score again. One send a message is not enough to win on time.
It is not. Although I think the 1 pointer on the Oracle Think Tank does point to the Corp is just planning to score out 2 more 5/3s, and this deck is probably nothing but 5/3s.
Sure, I agree, but like that's still two scores that have to come through in the next 2 minutes, 3 minutes. We're getting pretty close to time here.
Yeah, I think we have. Okay, I just saw a round 3 done in the timer on the events Discord.
Barring some flat line, lethal line, I'm not seeing a lot of ability for Arizona to win on points in the time remaining. Like, yes, this will be a send a message score. That's almost certainly happening, and I don't know where the other 3 points to win are. I think
All right, hear me
all.
out. Neurospike.
Yeah, sure. 3 cards in hand though. A little tricky. I mean, like double Neurospike is not enough money. Backroom Machinations. Okay.
All right, that's didn't quite get to 5, but a couple of backroom machinations could have gotten you the tie there.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little more time might have had it there for Arzon, but unfortunately, that's how they get you. They make you play these decks that have to win before the time in the round.
Mhm. We should
All right,
rotate
that
back
is.
in Data Ward just for Synapse.
Does Data Ward do anything for Synapse? Because yeah, maybe the runner's floating tags,
Yeah, maybe
but
we're footing tags, and then it's a really enormous piece of ice.
there's so many terrible things you can do to the runner if they're going to just float tags.
Okay, but hear me out. Having a giant barrier uh, is a nice punish that doesn't cost influence.
True. Although I think the designers are rather deliberately not printing huge barriers for NBN. Not unless you manage to actually play capacitor. Then that turns into a pretty okay barrier, if they're tagged. That is all the results in. All right, round's not concluded yet, so we can't quite see all of the players who have 9 points. And I'm not going to do math on checking out who of these players have managed to win. I'm not going to go back and forth between the tabs. That's just too unreasonable. All right. Is it really limited to 4 ADP quality? Let me check on that for you. 4 ADP doesn't sound very good.
Why are we on 480p?
It's possible that it might be a restream server issue.
Okay, yes, I'm seeing it as automatic at 480p. I will.
Yeah, unfortunate. I suspect this means that so we use the restream service which streams to both Twitch and YouTube, and it's possible that we're not getting a high enough output from that one because if both Twitch and YouTube are streaming in low quality, then I know what my suspicions are.
Okay, I've tried tweaking some settings, and we're going to wait a minute and see if this does anything. But I have adjusted how I am encoding the video, and this may or may not manage to do something. We will see.
Round 4 pairings are up. And we'll have a little bit of time before the round starts.
Yeah, so I've got the standings pulled up here.
All right, I think we have a promising matchup.
Okay,
Table
okay.
1, Op versus Arisana. Do you want to check that out?
Sure.
Because if it's Asset Op, then... But also they might not have a lot of it. We are good to stream.
All right, that was good to stream on
Table 1.
table 1. Okay.
Now, Kabloosh, I am familiar with for making some absolutely depraved deck building choices, such as I do believe that he is the originator of the gigantic op lists that are like 100 cards. Or I think they eventually whittled that down to a mere 60 or so. So whatever he's cooking in Arisana is, I'm sure he's found something. And Augustus Caesar, also very strong player. And I think we can guess that this might be Asset Op. That seems to be the hot stuff of the day. But also, it could be anything. Op is just like that. And then with that in mind, we have the agonizing countdown, 3 minutes until the start of round 3 or round 4. After which there will be a lunch break. So as we wait for the round to start, did you know that Adam S. Doyle is selling prints of his art on InPrint, including the incredible chromatophores? I've just bought some big artwork. My house needs a big octopus painting on it. We have 2 minutes until the round begins. I can take a quick check on the YouTube. See if we got... It looks like we are still on 480p.
Hmm. Well, that is also something we can manage to fix in the next 45 minutes. But hopefully when the stream comes back up, it will be resolved.
We can only hope.
Since the stream will be going down after round 4 as we go on break, and it will be rehosted by Juniper Theory, I believe, for the second half of the Swiss.
That's right. Brandhar does not have infinite time, but luckily for the stream, I do. I will be continuing to commentate after the break.
Well,
20 seconds remain, and I'm sure we're about to see these players play their clicks very quickly.
recent action. Have we seen any mulligans? I guess the Caesar took a mulligan. One mulligan, one keep.
Kept. Hedge fund making its way into corporation lists. Turns out hedge fund is just good enough to be back in the running after rotation.
I was like they're running in a fair few lists before rotation too.
It was, but a lot of corp decks were very proudly cutting the hedge funds. And now look at them. They've come crawling back to the hedge fund. But now we have humanoid resources coming to just get a spin doctor. You end up drawing 4 cards you draw 5 cards during the resolution of humanoid resources. Hopefully some of these cards will let you put this stuff on the table.
Mm-hmm. And there was no play. There was no play.
All right, that is the hazard of op. No, you played the hedge fund last turn, and they get punished by not getting to play with the humanoid resources. 2 cards were discarded, but with the spin doctor on the table, that is very possibly just fixing the hand.
The 2 cards discarded are going on an adventure back into R&D. Double for magic coming down. Especially along with this big deck that already sold the coal, and next turn's probably going to sell the muse. This is a lot of money for Arasada over the next couple of turns.
However, the op is off to a good start. Tucana, incredible value add to all your agendas that you score out of the remote, because then you get to just start icing up those centrals that you didn't bother to ice. And you get to grab those things that are only good on HQ. But now everyone has an off the books.
Write that down. Wait, actually, don't write that down. It's off the books.
If you write it down on a napkin, it's okay. That's not a book.
Oh, okay.
And
Good to know we're answering the important questions here.
Tucana is down with a pinhole threading. That's a really good thing to make sure he doesn't get out of control. But somehow the corporation has drawn 3 pieces of ice. Incredible.
Corporation is looking a little bit too broke to res them all, though.
Tread lightly would be devastating.
Okay, humanoid resources. It's time.
Here we go again. All right, now this is cooking. Getting a Mitra Aman off of the op score. Maybe this is just 3 credits, or maybe there's a particular nasty ice you want to bring into play, such as make sure you have a Stavka and a half rune ready for them at a moment's notice.
Or just a Cloud Eater.
Or just a Cloud Eater. That's a bit expensive on the influence in op, though.
It is. But you only need 1 if you can keep recurring it.
Runner is still cooking. We have a fermenter ready on 4 credits. But this is the really threatening situation to be in as a runner, where you have 8 credits on the fermenter that you don't need, and you can be even greedier with how long you wait to crack it. All right. Speaking of greed, no greed allowed. Corporation manually purges virus scanners. I haven't seen that happen in a year or two. Oh, okay.
I mean, getting the Integler off the Afshar and then also this giant pile of fermenters, like, I definitely see the line here.
Yeah, I see it. And I say a year. My timeline is very off. No one's been happy to purge virus counters since before they banned Cyberdeck Sandbox.
Yeah, but that's something that was the last time I've seen virus counters manually purged.
Mm-hmm. But Kabloosh managing to keep the economy flowing. Checking out archives. Is there anything cool in there? Very. See, some kind of altar to regolith mining license. I'm not yet clear on how. I've heard there's some new capacity to have alt arts on JNet. I am not clear how it works. And environmental testing. I'm starting to think this deck has no breakers. It's just 44 economy cards and a Physarum Entangler.
This has been a lot of money.
I do see a Cordyceps in the bin. That is fascinating. And we're about to score an AZEF protocol. And losing a conduit due to damage. You're probably happy about losing the conduit so that you can install it for cheap with the Simul chip.
And also potentially install it quickly with the Sable chip. Because conduit is very frequently much more threatening when it's not as telegraphed.
Speaking of telegraphed, though, we're making a run on R&D. And Tithe, it sure doesn't stop a conduit. It just tickles, but
Yeah, I
you
think
probably can't run that 3 times.
yeah, I think I'm basically always happy to run this Tithe here because Tithe basically never doesn't pay for itself.
And even if the runner breaks both subroutines, they spent double what you did on this transaction.
Yeah.
There is a secret limitation on Mitra if you were hoping to have the money. If the runner never runs the remote again, you never get to get the $3 from Mitra.
Another mute coming in. Probably gonna get a call though. Yes, it's the call.
Nothing but money.
First.
Why would we install any icebreakers when our rig could just be like 3 fermenters, 3 muses, and a coalescence?
Okay, so I know it's not in rotation, but do we actually have enough money that our breaker could just be worm here?
I think that worm does require literally infinite money to consider playing. But this is a step in that direction. We are actually resolving an illumination and getting 3 installs at a credit discount each.
Yeah, this is also an in the groove turn.
Oh. Now that's the kind of gaming I expect from Kabloosh.
No, like the introduction of Muse and then also um, Illumination has really started to supercharge in the group, especially like if you also just pop some symbol chips that you pre-installed, you can have so many triggers as you go off.
I'm glad we tuned into this game. This is a lot of cards moving around very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Now, thankfully, at least in the groove is a priority event, so it is not possible to stack them. If you could stack 2 in the grooves, they would get very, very silly.
Then we start to looking like an infinite combo
And
in
then probably go
standard.
into it, yeah.
All right, taking the last off the books. We are all so off the books. The runner score area completely off the books. I think that should allow you to not count towards being a threat if you want to.
I'm now like thinking about a GFI, but instead of modify your actual victory points, it just modifies how you count threat.
Ooh. The game, the runner smells blood in HQ, and you get in those clicks back on the piece of show.
Mm-hmm.
And in the chat, we get that little shout out to the rules team of adds pieces out of their grip to appease the rules.
Yeah, but also now that Peach Shell's in the grip, you can reinstall it because you're in the groove and get a draw or a credit or something.
A whole lot of something.
Well, that was an exciting turn.
Yeah, Corp needs to step on it here. And the Corp has not been going slowly.
Extract the Maskarovka, find the Hollow Man.
All right, that looks like a drone deployment in the remote if I've ever seen one.
Well, the runner potentially has 29 credits available to get in here. Popping 2 fermenters.
And we do have the entire Breaker Suite on the table, even if it is a sad Gauss that's not active right now.
Well, with 20 credits, however, it may be possible to just sort of brute force access to this server.
Yeah, unless the Corp has managed to find the influence to play Anno. What? Even Anoetic Void doesn't do it because Corp's got 1 card in hand. That 2-for-2 boost line on Gauss coming in awkward right now. You know, Tree Line is a surprisingly powerful piece of ice just by itself. I
Yeah,
actually put
great.
in yeah, and it's only 1 influence. I actually put in just 2 tree lines into an NBN deck just as my barriers.
Yep. I mean, I really like Tree Line,
Right.
but also I famously played nothing but RPC Beal until Elevation released, so
All right, Mitra to bring the Fly Swatter back into play. And, oh boy, Zato City Grid. And I think that's gonna do it. You can just throw both of the ETRs at the runner here.
Okay, and then what? I guess if this is an SDS, SDS wins.
Yeah, I said this looks like an SDS if I ever saw one. And I think that
Okay.
would be a credit perfect with
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Well, no, it's you pay 4 for 3 advancements, and then you need. I think you're 1 credit short if that's a SDS in there.
No, because Zato actually fires the sub, right?
Zato. Oh wait, yeah, you just fire the gain the run and the run on
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
But if the
Throwing
runner
tree line
doesn't run,
yes, if the runner doesn't run. Okay, wild.
are you gonna let the corp have 1 credit right now? No, you're not. And starting on the conduit. All right, if we have correctly identified that the corp needed 6 credits to get the 5-3 scored, now this is looking really awkward because you can't finish that remote, but also the runner could easily get in there. But also, there's a conduit on the
There's also an
table, so
active
if you
conduit, yeah.
and a cheap conduit on the table, so you need to go address that unless you manage to pull out a win really quick. Scene chilling. I think you just trash the tree line to the Zato so that there's no more clicks that you can get with the piece of shell. Because you just trash the tree line and then the runner
Yeah,
doesn't
you
get
just throw
feature spell
the tree
triggers.
line and they don't pass it with the piece of shell.
All right, trashing the fly swatter due to do the over install, go up to 6 credits.
Yeah.
Having the funds to threaten the play we just discussed.
Yes. Or like 9 credits is not infinite. There is a knick-knack to throw a DZMZ optimizer.
Yeah, R&D's loaded enough, and you also get to trash stuff out of R&D, which is not super sustainable, but you can
Yeah,
just
but you
keep
don't.
digging deeper and deeper.
Right, but this is now 3 new cards.
And this may just be like, rather than trying to disarm whatever funny business the corp has, it's like just win.
I like that this time you could just hit fireball every single time.
And yeah, there we go. Just win. The corp legally has to put enough agendas in their deck for you to win. And that was indeed an SDS that the runner correctly managed to get the corp 1 credit short on being able to finish it out. But what a game. That was a very elaborate set of triggers both players were managing there. Down to making sure they don't get the 1 credit to be able to complete the Hollow Man play. We have 20 minutes left in the round. let's take a look at the standings or let's take a look and try to find someone else to spectate.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what do we got here? We got you see some new players. You want to see Sable versus Op on table 14?
Sure.
Let's see. And this deck. We got one, yeah. All right, waiting to hear from the players. Yeah, we are good to stream. All right, so
All right,
we see Op with a Stavka on HQ. Oh, several important cards in archives. We see a Mavarus and a Hollow Man in archives. Oh, only one agenda has made it into the runner score area, and we do see a lot of cards, including a deep dive. It's possible the runner might have spent a deep dive to get that. And also, there's a Kurupira in archives, which perhaps that got trashed by Stavka earlier. Probable, because I don't see net damage. Well, I do see a tithe. Looks like we have a lot of game to go, and seeing a Svidagor on the remote, which is a ridiculously dangerous thing that you have to trash, but also the runner only has 5 credits. Go ahead, Durantar.
Oh, I mean, nothing really. I just go to recap the game state here. We've got Odd versus Sable. We're on turn 8. This is a not very developed runner board for turn 8, consisting of one boomerang.
Unsmiling Serevna is a very interesting access. Speaks to, well, one, it's tagging ice from NBN that costs a fair bit of money, and also suggests that you might be having some tag punishment in this deck.
Mm-hmm.
And the corporation reading that, I think this looks like a all-in deep dive deck. If we're to believe, we see no influence except the one deep dive in the discard pile. The way you defend your centrals against that is you defend one central against that. That way, if they ever run at that central, you know they're trying to deep dive.
Yeah, we're seeing a little bit of the classic Shaper U here. Now, this does mean against Sable, 2/3 of the time, Sable will have a very easy time getting her mark.
And this does leave you open to getting transfer of wealth. But also, if the agendas all go into the remote as soon as you draw them,
Yes.
you don't have to worry about HQ. And it looks like just letting the runner steal 9 of your credits is an acceptable way to play right now, rather than dividing up your ice that could be used to make sure deep dive never goes off. Speaking of which, Sable is starting to build up these one-time bypasses. There's both a backstitching and a malondrogem on the table. As soon as you roll R&D mark, then you are really close to being able to deep dive them. Also, the runner is tagged, and so trashing the backstitching is going to require the runner to find more tools, draw more cards. I am glad we're back in a state where the basic action to trash a resource if the runner is tagged is becoming an important thing again, but not something that you can just trash the entire runner table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're coming in. Click this. Credits. Got the Sable rebate here. Obviously, you did see the tag removed.
Yeah, I think the corp is demonstrating that they have the money to spend on this trash resources play, and they're not going to let you just sit there with a
Backstitching.
You're not just going to be allowed to sit there with the backstitching on the table. All right, new boomerang on that outermost ice, but not challenging it right now. And that's a pretty devastating Melandrogem hit.
Mm-hmm.
It just puts the runner back to step 0 on landing another deep dive.
Powers that be in hand. Powers that be in archives.
But no powers that be on the table.
This is true. Sigatory Sphere
Powers
eats the boomerang to ice.
The powers currently are not being just chilling in centrals.
The powers that ate. And possibly another Spray threat being developed into Server 2 here. Blueberry TM Diesel.
Now that's a card that says all in deep dive deck. We just care about getting the deep dives into hand.
I mean, with this info bounty, I'm not really convinced about that because if you're all in on deep dive, you're only like you're not making repeated runs onto your mark. You just want the 1 or 2 runs on your mark on your deep dive turns. You get flick rebate. That's all you're there for. But this info bounty that says, yeah, we're gonna run our mark most turns.
I mean, against the Shaper U here, then I think I'll take a clickless 2 credits while I'm setting up. I haven't seen any other kind of win condition out of the runner. Just to tie in HQ.
But still, Ethan, like actually, this info bounty in conjunction with Sable is going to start just generating money for the runner.
And using Mavirus just to get another ice on the remote and save 4 credits on the install cost.
Yeah, we need to start seeing some ice coming down here on HQ. Like you just can't let let Sable keep touching things for 2 credits at 0 clicks.
And very timely, HQ mark comes down. The Shaper U is most uneven, though. It's too tall on one side.
Hmm. Lying low for card draw. Maybe looking for some
Yeah,
more
it turns
Ethan
out
here. Looking for
criminals would rather play VRcation in click loss mode than import card draw. And Cobalt saying, surprised the Svedogor was allowed to live this long, but also it's not really selling a lot. Okay, I guess it sold them a virus rather than having to just take the 3 loss on that. Nothing much in archives. Glacier Ob, it's so cursed that we're not even glaciering the remote. The remote's just a normal piece of ice. We're doing Glacier R&D.
So I mean, I do have a couple of thoughts, which is namely, Ob has 10 credits, and these are 6 pieces of unresed ice. There is not the money right now to res all of these. We might in fact just see some sold to Svigator, honestly. Yep.
Yeah, now that there's only 5 pieces of ice. Now as long as you have about 2 credits per piece of ice, or if each piece of ice costs 2, you can res everything.
Yeah, but that's probably still not the case. We're probably only looking at we can't
Biowack.
even res the Biowack in HQ. Like that gets installed. What are you gonna do? Forfeit an STS to score to res Biowack for only 4? Probably not. I
Biowack's
would actually love to
interesting.
see the runner just go to server 2 here and say, show me, spend some money, do like something.
I would like to see you tread lightly, just once.
Call the bluff. Like they're not even bluffing, but even even having to realize their bluff costs them so much potentially.
All right, runner ending with a lot of cards in hand and not very many credits, but we'll see what the runner can come up with next turn. The Corp has gotten away with it.
We are seeing some advancements coming in.
And
I just picked up
trashing the
trashing the
excavator.
Svigator excavator. Fascinating.
You don't have to trash resed cards for the AZF. It's just something you often do to get an off trigger. But perhaps that's just, we got enough money, and the other cards are important to have.
So this might actually be the BOAC down in front of HQ. With this ASF, I'm not like wildly excited about throwing ASF at BOAC, but it's really better than throwing SDS drone deployment at BOAC. So
I don't think anything except the runner running the winning agenda in HQ could convince me to raise a BOAC right now.
it would be incredibly hard for the runner to run the winning agenda in HQ on this board state, and I'd call a judge to understand what the government takeover was doing there.
I mean, government takeover do be like that sometimes.
Which I guess would also be a very winning agenda for the runner, just for entirely different reasons.
Blueberry diesel. Yep.
Okay, so we've seen
That's
the new
okay.
couch did hit a deep dive. There's, we think, one deep dive left. So we know that that is the BOAC on HQ because there's been time to get other ice in hand. I think. I don't think I've been tracking quite that closely, but okay, Spin Doctor, Res,
Yeah.
Spin Doctor
Just to
Shuffle.
check. Now, do you think that this is now with 3 credits, you can't do an Esther Battle crit play. You don't have enough to actually play a deep dive.
No, this is just checking. I could consider going back to HQ here though. Okay, if the BOAC is Res pitching an agenda and eats the info bounty.
I don't think these resources are important enough to be a whack.
Yeah. I think I'm happy to trade my info bounty for 2 points from the runner. So it's entirely reasonable to go back to HQ here and check it, take a single, and see one of the new cards if you think that's worth it.
Yeah, the runner in a bit of a dire spot economically, but the corp does keep selling off the R&D ice. Maybe one day you'll be able to just cheese a win with an Estebrado.
Well, they've trashed their ability to sell ice. The Spiritor got trashed to the As If protocol.
Yeah, but we just extracted an R&D ice, extracted that tithe to go get the Spin Doctor.
Mm-hmm. We should see the ice migrate over to server 2, where it's protecting things. And this could be a scoring push here. We know that the corp is definitely on As If protocols because they have scored 1 and we have stolen 1.
All right. Droids might be coming in to tell the players about time running out. I think time's really running out on the round now. All right, that is 2 minutes. A lot can happen in 2 minutes. A lot can happen in just one, and just, what was it? 21 seconds was the name of the pack?
I thought it was 23.
23. Okay, now I gotta go look up.
But that is the last ASF being scored out, dealing 2 beat damage, but also winning the game.
Yeah, that is that. All right, we have addressed the issue of time running out. So many people coming in to tell them about the end of the round. It was 23 seconds. That was the first pack in Flashpoint.
Yes.
And with that, we're not starting up another round, and I think that's going to be the end of the first half of this stream as we head into our lunch break.
I'm going to
This
put
is
up the standings briefly.
Yeah. So this has been the America's 2025 Online Megacity Tournament.
Part 1.
Part 1. We are going to switch the streaming hosts. We are going to end up having Juniper Theory stream the second half of this.
Okay, we're still waiting for round 4 to finish. Okay, that's finished reporting. We don't have round 4 standings yet.
We do not have round 4 standings yet. But I think we have some very strong netrunner awaiting us in the latter half of the tournament, to say nothing of tomorrow's top cut.
I mean, I'm sure the latter half of the tournament will involve a lot of climbing.
And then tomorrow, I think I will not be joining us tomorrow, because then I have to go comment on the other mega stream city, that Pittsburgh one. Someone's scheduled 2 events on the same day.
Yes, there's a lot of very high quality netrunner being played today and tomorrow, this weekend in general. But thank you so much for joining me on the cast. Thank you to all of our spectators. You've been great. And I believe that will conclude the first half of the stream of the 2025 America's Online Megacity. Thank you. Sorry, go ahead. Thank you.